The Priority Report is brought to you by Cumberland Valley National Bank. Trusted for banking, known for caring. Visit them at cvnb.com. Chenault Vineyards, a place to create beautiful experiences. Visit them online at chenaultvineyards.com. Shelter Insurance, Ashley Kovaleski. Give her a call, 859-624-0883, located 112 Big Hill Avenue in Richmond. And kymedia.net.
Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
So we talked about earlier that a lot of clerks in the state have been kind of inundated with these open records requests to check on specifically the 2020 election. But you told me earlier that you've only received a couple of requests, and could you kind of go over that with me? What kind of the requests, what they were asking, and how your office has been handling it?
The requests we've gotten so far have been for documents that we don't possess, and that's the open records request language requires that it be a document that we have in our possession, and you request that document, we provide it. What we've gotten requests for was documents that wanted information compiled out of electronic storage, which would be out of the poll books and things like that, and we don't have that information, so we would have to compile that information. Well, that's why the statute's written that way. That's a burden on the office that is not, it's not funded by, it's using taxpayer dollars to fund someone's want or need, and that's not allowed in an open records request.
Because the issue is that these requests have asked you to create a document that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, if we don't have it, we cannot provide it.
And so what were some of these open records requests looking into?
They call what they call as cast vote records, and they want to, most of it has come out of the new poll books that we've used, electronic poll books. They want all the data out of those, the people that have checked in, and they're trying to match those check-ins versus the vote totals and find anomalies is what they're calling them, folks. Because they're using the word anomalies, and they're basing it, from what I can tell, on how races turned out previously and how this race was different from that one, not assuming that people might have voted differently from one race to the other for other reasons other than someone manipulated the vote total. So they're trying to get data to compare back and forth with.
But unlike a lot of clerks, you said that Madison County your office hasn't gotten a whole lot of these types of requests.
No, we've gotten 2 or 3, and it's stuff we don't have.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier that it's 22 months after an election that these documents are destroyed, correct?
Correct. Yeah, 22 months after the election, the documents by state law that goes through Library and Archives and the State Board of Elections, that the documents are to be destroyed in 22 months. So recently, early this month, we shredded all the paper documents left from the 2020 general election.
Now, we kind of talked earlier about if you were to, there's a reason why that they aren't stored for this great length of time, that they are destroyed. Could you kind of explain that?
It was 1,366 pounds of paper, which is the ballot stubs, spent ballots, marked ballots that people voted on, all the envelopes from absentee that involves 3 or 4 pieces of paper. So it's a large volume of stuff. And this is set up this way. Counties don't have the space to store this stuff. It's tough for some counties to store it for 22 months because the way things cycle, this is the cleanest time we have, because we had a break, a dead year before the presidential, and now we're getting back in. So we're going to have 4 elections that we have to store the paper for, and there's just not room for it. And this is not unique for Kentucky. I don't know where the 22 month number came from. Nobody can, but it's like this across the country, most places.
And this is procedure. I mean, this is statute that's
this is every election. Yes, this is something we do every cycle, and it's documented that we did destroy them, who destroyed them, all that stuff is documented every time we go through it.
Why do you think that these kind of this kind of records request bonanza is kind of happening now? And why Madison County, you you guys haven't really received a whole lot from the community?
Well, we haven't received, I mean, there's counties up in the northern part of the state that have received a lot of open records requests from people within their county. And that's based on, there's a lot of things that go into that, but they're mostly, they're very heavily registered Republicans counties. So there are a lot of folks that are a lot more excited about what happened in the 2020 election than there are people here. And I hope that comes from part of people that live here in Madison just trusting that we're doing what we're supposed to. And we are. We're following statute to the letter. So it's, I hope that that's a good sign for what the job we're doing here, and that the people in Madison County are trusting us to do what we're supposed to do and take care of the electoral process, because it's the most important thing we do here. It takes, we started, we've got, it's about 7 weeks now. The portal opens up the 24th to request an absentee ballot. So this election actually starts for us on the 25th of September. And we've been working for about 5 months getting ready for this election that's going to happen in November.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I know it's a struggle every election cycle to find election officers to serve on voting days. Is that been the case?
It's still a case. We changed group of clerks for work along with Secretary of State and the governor to change the way we vote. And we went to the polling center model, which reduces the number of people we need greatly. So that makes it much easier. We need fewer people. They're easier to fill all the spots. We're still short on Democrats right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's backwards. It flipped from last election. We're short on Republicans now. Last election, we were short on Democrats. I don't know why that switched, but we're short on Republicans right now. But we'll get them. We'll find them. It's easy to, you can go to our website and request it. You can go to the Secretary of State's website or the State Board of Elections website and send a request in that you want to work, and we'll get you set up.
And this is paid. Election officers paid.
Yep. It's $20 for election school. You have to go to a 2-hour class every election, and then it's $125 for the day of the election. And then the early voting days are $15 an hour for 8 hours.
That's not too bad. And you noted that you needed more Republicans. There's great pains that are taken to have registered, if you are registered in a party, to have those people kind of working together.
We must have. That's what the statute says. It's not kind of sort of if you want to. We must have party parity at the polls, an even number of both parties, D's and R's. And this last legislation change, we did get switched where we were allowed to use independents or other parties, folks registered other than Democrat or Republican, and that's helped out quite a bit too. But we still have to have party parity between Democrat and Republicans at the polls.
So every election that there's people on both sides registered that's working. I just wanted to make that a point, that it's not like just got a whole bunch of registered Republicans that are checking people in and getting them, helping them to vote. So,
and that happens, and that's within our office too. Mm-hmm. Everything we do with absentees, whether it's mailing out or receiving them back in and checking them in, checking signatures and that kind of stuff, it's all with party parity. It's all with a Democrat and Republican that's doing that. So
a lot of dates. You just mentioned the 25th, September 25th, and people who haven't registered to vote, there's still time to register to vote for the election in November.
Last day to register to vote is October 10th. If you're going to be 18 on or before that day, you can register to vote and vote in this election coming up on November 8th.
That's great.
So October 10th is the last day.
So what, I know that we're doing the polling locations and there's 3 days for early voting, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's November 3rd, 4th, and 5th from 8 until 4.
Okay.
3 days of early voting. That's always the Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday before the election, before election day.
And we're having the polling locations. You might not have a list there, but are they going to kind of be the same as it was for the primary, or there's some switches?
We have switched. So our early voting last time we did here at the courthouse for the central part of the county, we have moved that to the Madison County Public Library because of we got requests from citizens about transportation.
Oh.
So Foothills, there's 2 routes in Madison County that Foothills runs, and they both stop at the Madison County Public Library. So anyone in the county that can get on a Foothills bus can get to the library and vote early, or on election. We're voting there on election day also.
Excellent. And these, I know that you've talked about it in the past, that the polling locations have greatly simplified and streamlined stuff and created some greater access to people to vote.
Right. We've spread those locations out pretty much north to south throughout the county. Foothills is also helping us out down the lower part of the county. They're stopping at Russell Active Folk Center. That's a place that we use all the way through voting. We vote every day there. Berea Baptist Church is right across the road pretty much from Southern. They're going to stop there on election day. So it's everybody's, Foothills has been a good partner in this. The Madison County Library shuffled meetings around and everything so we could use their space, which is a really good space, but there's not much parking.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of a trade-off there. We've got a great room to vote in, easy to find, easy to get in and out, no steps, completely flat, but parking is an issue at the library.
I mean, you've been our county clerk for a good long while. What's kind of been, do you think that elections and voting is kind of, in your opinion, becoming easier or simplified? I mean, you've seen a lot of changes, especially in the last, 5 years.
Yeah, and this is, it's something that I didn't ever think, the way we're voting now and the changes that were made with days before election day, unexcused, you just go vote because you want to. Never really thought I would see that in my time as clerk. And especially the way we've been able to change this to a precinct model and I hope, more people will probably vote in the general. So it'll be new to people again, but the people in the primary, it was hard for them to understand that they could go anywhere they wanted to because they've been told for hundreds of years,
right?
You have to go to this place and stand in this line between 6 and 6 on this day. Well, to completely open that up, my father asked me over and over again, where am I supposed to go? Wherever you feel like it. And the first voter we had in the primary, I was at the extension office on Duncannon Lane. The first voter we had in the primary, she had dropped her children off at the daycare, Gus LaFontaine's daycare there next door, and just saw the flag and said, vote here. And she just pulled in and voted. That's exactly what we want. We want that convenience. It doesn't matter. We can track you by where you live in the electronic poll book now. You don't have to go to a certain place to have your ballot there. We've got it set up so you can go anywhere we want to. And I think that's one of the biggest conveniences in the extra days.
Excellent.
But the other thing that you don't think of, most people don't think of, is the security in that. If you're going to manipulate an election, so let's say you're running for magistrate and you want to manipulate the election at the polls. Well, before, you knew exactly where your voters were going to show up, at what location, and exactly what time. You only have one day, 12 hours to manipulate. Now you have 4 days that you would have to be at those locations, and you don't know where your voters are going.
Right.
So you would have to be at every location in order to manipulate somehow, or have a poll worker manipulate somehow your race. So sorry for the clock. But it completely opens up. It completely opens up. Yeah, it's going to strike 10 times too. It completely opens up makes it tougher for people to manipulate things on the election day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because you don't, there's so many variables working, because you're never going to know what polling location that a particular voter is going to go to, or what they're, what kind of Republican or Democratic stronghold within the county are gonna go to. Like, I live in Berea, but I vote now in Richmond because that's where I work. So.
And that's the biggest benefit to doing this. If you live and work in Madison, it's so much easier, because you're right. Instead of trying to vote early enough to get to work, or leave work early enough to get back to your home location to vote, was in the way for people. Mm-hmm. It held, and people just didn't go. A lot of people didn't go through the trouble.
Right.
So now you can vote wherever it's most convenient for you, whatever's closest.
I've had the good experience of going through your election officer school. I did serve as an election officer. I recommend anybody do that if they're curious about how people vote. If they're curious about the security measures, your office does a really good job of training people and explaining the process. So it's, if you get paid to learn about an election in a way. And
that's really what I encourage people to do, because I like the fact that people are interested now, because up until before 2020, people only thought about elections 2 or 3 days before.
Right.
And then they forgot about it completely. And I like that people are interested in the process, but I wish people would learn more about the process before they question the results that the process produces. And I think that's what we're lacking, is communication between groups that think that something was manipulated and don't understand that our equipment has never been hooked to the internet and never will be hooked to the internet.
No, I served as an election officer during the last gubernatorial election. And even then, you said, nobody can hack into this. Like there's no cord nobody can come in and manipulate it. And, back then, everything was very, you had somebody with you all the time, making sure that the things were secure and that everybody was where they needed to be. So it's a very detailed and great process here in Madison County. So I encourage everybody, if you're really interested and want to know from the early voting to when they're counted. I've been in the office with you while you're going through absentee voting. So it would be pretty hard to go in and manipulate stuff. But I'm glad that people are interested as well. So in your opinion, are we getting more secure? Even since when I was an election officer?
Oh, definitely. Yes. So we went away from pre-printed ballots. We still have paper ballots, but we went away from pre-printed ballots.
Right.
So chain of custody is huge in elections, whether it's the ballots, the equipment, the electronic information that we're putting into the machines. That chain of custody is really important. Well, the chain of custody of pre-printed ballots is they're printed in Georgia almost a month before the election. They're shipped here, they're stored. Then we have to sort them, lock them in a machine, and then send them to the polls. And we hope, number one, that's very expensive. Number two, we hope we send enough ballots, because if we didn't, there's going to be a problem. And number three, that chain of custody is months long.
Right.
With the express vote, it's a blank card until a voter has it in their hand. It's not a ballot. It's not a ballot until it goes into the machine, they make their selections, and then it prints back out, and then it's a ballot. It is their ballot, and it's scanned in the machine. So the chain of custody went from over a month to minutes, literally minutes, from the time the voter walks away from the check-in table till they vote their ballot and scan it in the machine. That's a huge difference. So there can't be ballots, pre-printed ballots floating around out there somewhere. Somebody can't reproduce ballots and that's not possible anyway, because they don't have a security barcode on them. The machine wouldn't read them, but it's not possible. It can't be done. Somebody can't try to manipulate the election through the ballot anymore.
That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, I know a lot of people, have asked you these questions, especially.
Yeah. No, and I'll talk to elections. I'll talk about elections longer than you want to listen. It was so, the way we did it was, like I say, I never thought I'd see the changes that we've been able to make. It was so antiquated. No changes have been made in nearly, other than the type of equipment we use, no changes have been made in 200 years. Well, imagine what's happened just in automobiles in 200 years and just society in general. The model we were using did not fit. If we were in business with the model we had and somebody else was competing with us, we'd gone out of business a long time ago. We wouldn't have any customers anymore.
Well, and not only that, but the electronic, you mentioned the electronic poll book and the ease with which, because every election there, and especially in 2020, there was a lot of talk of, dead people voted, dead people voted. But in Kentucky specifically, a lot of those old kind of voter rolls got scrubbed, and you've got the electronic ones now, and that has greatly reduced. Has it?
Yes. Well, Secretary Adams has done an excellent job of cleaning up. Previous secretary did not clean the voter rolls, even after being ordered by a federal judge. Secretary Adams went in and started to clean those voter rolls up. And one way that we got a lot of praise nationally in the 2020 during COVID for running the election we did. Secretary Adams and Governor Barger, two different parties, worked together to make this thing, and involved. The other thing they did, they involved the people, us, the clerks that actually do it.
Right.
So that's why it went well. But so we are decentralized in Kentucky when it comes to elections in most of the electoral process. So if you want to manipulate an election across the entire state, you've got to deal with 120 county clerks and 120 county clerk staff. But when it comes to our voter rolls, it's centralized. So the Secretary of State and the State Board are in control of our voter roll here in the state. It's not one individual clerk. So the mainframe and the computer system and all that is centralized into one place. So it can't be hacked in 120 different places, because there are counties in this state that don't have the funds to do their own database for their county and do it correctly. It's not possible in this day and age to have the security that it's required for something that important. So I think that's why Kentucky's, either by plan or by accident, it's a really secure state for elections.
I think so, which again, back to our original discussion, which makes it kind of strange. A lot of clerks are trying to get ready for this election, and they're having to deal with these kind of open records requests, and then trying to explain to someone, well, we don't have that information.
Right.
So it just kind of makes the clerk's jobs harder, because like you said, this is something that once one election's over, you're planning the next one.
Right.
And the Madison County where the adjustments, especially in 2020, was on the fly. I mean, you guys were
yes, absolutely. And that's not in the nature of clerks,
right,
to change things on the fly, especially when it comes down to elections. Something that they've done the same way every year they've been in office, and then they're told you're going to have to do it this way or we can't have an election. And without the electronic poll books, we would not have had an election in 2020. It was foresight of Secretary Grimes, pushed hard for those. I got on the committee to put it because I knew that was the first piece to make this poll center model work. Because if you've got paper roster books in 8 locations that aren't talking to each other, you can vote 8 times.
Yeah.
You're going to get charged with a federal crime if you sign the roster 8 times, but it's still the results are screwed up. The election's over with. We don't know who voted where and how many times they voted, who actually won. Without the electronic poll books, we would have been in real trouble in 2020 with getting it accomplished.
Oh, that's great. Is there any piece of advice or anything that you want to let the public know about this upcoming elections in general, election security?
Well, the other piece that we're having that goes along with the open record request that I thought of earlier was that the recalls and recanvass. We've had several recalls in the state where the margins were in the thousands of votes, and it costs thousands of dollars to do that. And there are groups that have raised money and paid for these. And I think we're going to see more and more of them along the way. The clerks are working on legislation to put a percentage in the statute that says if you lose by 15-20%, you cannot ask for a recall. It's not going to make a difference. And the recalls we've had have come down to 1 or 2 votes difference in the total from the election night. So it's proven that everything's working like it should, but that's a huge burden on the Secretary of State or State Board of Elections office. Their attorney has done nothing but be in court for the last 3 months for these recalls on, there's thousands of votes margin between the winner and the loser wants a recount. We are in Madison County, I've already forgotten the name of it. Random risk limiting audits.
Right. So
we do an audit after the election. And it's a complicated process and hard to explain, but basically we look at the results and randomize what those results are and what races, and pick races, and make sure that what the outcome of the race matches what we thought was going to happen in the beginning of the race, that kind of thing. So we're piloting that. It's going to roll out probably in the state in the primary next year. We're piloting it for, we have one race for Senate on our ballot this time. So we'll be doing that race because it's on everybody's machines. It's in the pilot group. So we're working further and further to try to make sure that, and I've always been for, if we have a problem, we need to be trying to measure the thing and figure out where the problem is so we can fix it. If we could just sit back and say, our stuff's all perfect. Well, that's not true. You don't know until you actually start asking the questions and looking for problems and that's the only way you find them.
Excellent. Well, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I was trying to think of dates. 3rd, 4th, and 5th for the early voting. Election day, of course, is on November 8th. We got the last day to register, and the absentee portal opens on the 24th, which is just right around the corner. Today's 23rd. It's tomorrow. So,
yeah. Oh, good timing.
Yep.
Well, thank you so very much. Thank you. I know it's a tough job that's gotten a little tougher, but a little bit easier too. But thank you so much. And again, in need of Republican election officers. So, and it's pretty easy. You guys make it easy on your website. And I guess they can contact the clerk's office as well.
They can call us. They can go on our website, or they can go to govote.ky.com or .gov and put their information in there. Sorry.
You're fine. Well, thank you so much. I know I called you this morning and see if you would do it. So thank you so much for talking with me, and I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
The Pryority Report is brought to you by Cumberland Valley National Bank. Trusted for banking, known for caring. Visit them at cvnb.com. Chenault Vineyards, a place to create beautiful experiences. Visit them online at chenaultvineyards.com. Shelter Insurance, Ashley Kovaleski. Give her a call, 859-624-0883, located 112 Big Hill Avenue in Richmond. And kymedia.net. Download the Richmond Register News app on your favorite device, or sign up and subscribe online at richmondregister.com.